What if every failed escape wasn't a failure at all? What if the town never wanted to keep people trapped, because trapping them was never the real objective? The real objective was changing them. That sounds impossible at first. After all, everyone in from spends every day searching for a way out. They build radios. They follow roads. They enter trees. They chase visions. They decode symbols. Every season has pushed the characters toward one question. How do we escape? But here's what changes everything. What if that's the wrong question? Because when you stop looking at the town as a prison and start looking at it as a machine, every mystery begins to make terrifying sense.
Think about it.
If the town simply wanted to imprison people, why allow hope at all? Why let Boyd discover new places? Why let Jade uncover symbols? Why allow Tabitha to leave, only to bring her back? Why create faraway trees that sometimes help people? Why leave clues hidden across different timelines? A perfect prison doesn't create opportunities.
It removes them.
But this place keeps creating possibilities. And every single possibility leads the characters somewhere psychologically different than where they started. That's not an accident. That's the system working exactly as intended. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Every person who arrives enters the town believing they already know who they are. Boyd arrives as the leader. Jim arrives as the protector. Jade arrives believing intelligence can solve anything. Donna believes survival depends on control. Victor clings to childhood memories because they're all he has left. They all enter with an identity. But the town immediately begins attacking that identity. Boyd loses certainty. Jim loses control. Jade loses logic. Donna loses emotional distance. Victor slowly loses the safety of his memories. Notice the pattern? The monsters don't simply kill people. The town slowly dismantles who people think they are. And this is where it gets darker. Maybe death isn't the greatest danger inside from. Maybe change is. Because everyone who survives long enough becomes someone completely different. That's not character development. That's transformation. A transformation the town appears to be carefully guiding. This is the detail everyone missed. Whenever someone believes they've finally figured the place out, the rules change.
Not randomly.
Precisely. Remember when Boyd thought the talismans gave everyone safety? Soon new dangers appeared. The music box. The cicadas. Dream attacks. Then the hallucinations became stronger. Then time itself became unstable. Every solution creates another layer of mystery. Almost as if solving one puzzle simply unlocks the next stage. That's exactly how experiments work. Not prisons. Experiments. Because experiments don't test whether someone survives. They test how someone changes under pressure. Now think back to Tabitha. She accomplished what seemed impossible. She escaped. For a brief moment, the audience believed the impossible had finally happened. The town had been beaten. But had it?
No.
Because something strange happened after her escape. She didn't become free. She became different. She returned carrying new knowledge, new fears, new questions. And somehow, she became even more deeply connected to the town than before. If escaping only strengthens the connection, was it really an escape? Or was it simply another phase? That's the terrifying possibility. Maybe leaving was always part of the design. The same pattern appears again and again. Characters think they're making choices. But every choice somehow pushes them exactly where the town needs them to go. Jade chooses curiosity. The symbols consume him. Boyd chooses courage. He inherits impossible burdens. Sarah hears voices. She believes she's resisting them. But every action she takes moves the story forward exactly as the unseen force seems to require. Coincidence? Or programming? Because if every road leads back into the system, were they ever making choices at all? And that's where one forgotten detail suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. Victor. Victor has survived longer than almost anyone. Decades. Entire generations disappeared around him. Yet Victor remains. Most viewers assume it's because he understands the town better than everyone else. But what if that's backwards? What if Victor isn't surviving because he knows the truth? What if he's surviving because the town still needs him? Think carefully about how Victor behaves. He remembers just enough, but never everything. He finds clues, but rarely solves them. He guides people, but never completely. It's almost as if someone or something is carefully controlling how much truth he can access at any given moment. Not by erasing his memory completely, but by rationing it. Enough to keep the experiment moving. Never enough to end it. Because if Victor suddenly remembered everything, the entire system might collapse. Unless the system isn't afraid of being exposed. Maybe exposure is another step in the process. And if that's true, then every discovery we've celebrated, every clue, every vision, every answer, may have been deliberately placed in front of the survivors, not to help them escape, but to transform them into exactly what the town has been waiting for all along. If this theory is true, then we need to stop asking who built the town. Because that's not the real mystery. The real mystery is, what is the town trying to create? That one question changes how we see almost every major event in From. Think about the people who arrive. The town never seems interested in taking everyone immediately. If simple death were the goal, the monsters could have wiped out entire groups during their first nights. Newcomers are confused, terrified, and completely vulnerable. That would be the perfect time to eliminate them. But that almost never happens. Instead, they are given just enough time to adapt. Just enough time to build relationships. Just enough time to believe they understand the rules. Only then does everything begin to fall apart.
Why?
Because fear alone doesn't transform people. Hope does. Hope makes people invest in a future. It gives them something to protect. And once they have something to lose, every tragedy becomes far more powerful. Look at Boyd. In the beginning, Boyd's mission is simple. Protect the people. Keep order. Stay strong. The town never attacks that mission directly. Instead, it slowly poisons it. Every decision Boyd makes saves one person, but costs another. Every victory comes with an impossible sacrifice. Every answer creates an even greater burden. This is the detail everyone missed. The town isn't trying to prove Boyd is weak. It's trying to teach him that leadership always comes with unbearable guilt. That lesson changes Boyd far more than any monster ever could. And the same pattern repeats with almost everyone. Jade enters believing intelligence is the answer. He's arrogant, confident, certain that every mystery has a logical solution. So what does the town do? It doesn't punish his intelligence. It traps him inside it. The symbols become an obsession. The visions refuse to make sense. Every clue feels important, but none of them provide closure. Eventually, Jade stops looking for a way home. He starts looking for meaning. That is a completely different goal. The town didn't defeat his intelligence. It redirected it. And this is where it gets darker. Notice how almost every major mystery in the show behaves the same way. The bottle tree, the faraway trees, the caves, the music box, the children, the boy in white. None of these mysteries ever provide complete answers. Instead, they pull characters deeper into the town's psychological maze. Every revelation creates two new questions, almost as if curiosity itself is the trap. Now think about the faraway trees. Everyone talks about them as escape routes, but are they? Look at what they actually do. They never take people where they expect. Sometimes they save someone. Sometimes they separate families. Sometimes they reveal hidden locations. Sometimes they place someone in greater danger. There is no consistent destination. At least, not from the character's perspective. But what if there is consistency? What if the trees don't move people randomly? What if they move people to wherever their personal transformation needs to continue? That would explain everything. Boyd reaches the dungeon because that's where his journey must continue. Sarah reaches places that force her to confront her guilt. Tabitha reaches locations connected to children because her role is changing. The trees don't transport bodies. They transport stories. Every destination pushes the traveler toward becoming someone new. Look at what the show is actually telling us. The town rarely rewards the people who resist change. Instead, it rewards those who unknowingly accept it. Victor survives because he adapts. Boyd survives because he refuses to stop carrying responsibility. Tabitha survives because she keeps asking impossible questions, even when those questions destroy her old understanding of reality. The monsters follow the exact same principle. At first they look simple, creatures that hunt at night, nothing more. But then strange details begin to appear. They smile. They speak calmly. They remember names. They imitate loved ones. They manipulate emotions. They never behave like predators that are simply hungry. They behave like psychologists. They don't attack the body first. They attack trust. They attack grief. They attack loneliness. They attack hope. Why would monsters need conversations? Why knock politely? Why pretend to be familiar? Because they're not merely trying to enter houses. They're trying to enter minds. That changes everything. Maybe the monsters aren't the town soldiers. Maybe they're its teachers. Cruel teachers. Every encounter forces survivors to confront something hidden inside themselves.
Fear.
Regret.
Guilt.
Denial. The physical attack is only the final step. The psychological attack begins long before anyone opens a window. And once you recognize that pattern, another mystery suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. The boy in white. For years, viewers have assumed he's the closest thing to a hero. A guide. A protector. Someone trying to save the trapped survivors. But here's what changes everything. Has he ever actually explained the truth?
No.
He gives directions. He offers warnings. He appears exactly when someone reaches a critical emotional moment. Then he disappears. He never ends the mystery. He simply moves it forward, almost like he's making sure the story never stops. That's not how someone behaves if their only goal is rescue. That's how someone behaves if they're protecting a process. Because if the town is a machine designed to transform people, then even its apparent allies may not be trying to stop it. They may simply be ensuring the transformation reaches its final stage. And if that's true, then every clue we've trusted, every miracle we've celebrated, every impossible survival may have been carefully engineered from the very beginning. Not to help the characters escape, but to make sure they become exactly who the town needs before the final truth is revealed. But if the town has been transforming people from the very beginning, then one final question becomes unavoidable. What happens when that transformation is complete? This is where the theory becomes truly terrifying, because the show may have been hiding its ending in plain sight. Think about every major character who has survived the longest. None of them are the same people who arrived. Boyd no longer thinks like a soldier. Jim no longer trusts logic alone. Tabitha no longer separates dreams from reality. Jade no longer believes every mystery can be solved with intelligence. Victor no longer lives only in the past. They haven't just adapted to the town. They've been reshaped by it. And maybe that's the real purpose of every impossible event. Look at what the show is actually telling us. The town never gives every character the same experience. Some hear voices. Some see symbols. Some receive visions. Some communicate with dead people. Some are drawn to places no one else can find.
Why?
If everyone is trapped in the same place, why isn't everyone tested the same way? Because the town isn't running one experiment. It's running many. Every survivor is being pushed toward a different psychological breaking point. Boyd is tested through responsibility. Jade is tested through obsession. Tabitha is tested through faith. Sarah is tested through guilt. Victor is tested through memory. Donna is tested through control. Even Ethan, despite being a child, constantly sees the world differently from everyone else. His imagination isn't treated as childish fantasy. Again and again, it becomes strangely connected to reality. That can't be ignored. The town seems to identify the deepest part of a person's identity, then builds an entire nightmare around it. And this is where it gets darker. What if the town isn't choosing victims? What if it's choosing candidates? That sounds like a small difference, but it changes everything. Victims are meant to suffer. Candidates are meant to become something else. Suddenly, the endless cycle of arrivals makes more sense. Whenever people die, new people appear. The cycle never truly stops. almost as if the town is constantly replacing unfinished subjects with new ones. Not because it needs more bodies, but because it needs the right people. Now, think about Christopher. Victor's memories suggest that Christopher changed before the massacre. His behavior shifted. Something inside him broke. Most viewers see that as another tragic mystery. But what if Christopher reached the final stage of the town's transformation? What if he learned something so overwhelming that his old identity completely collapsed? That would explain why Victor's memories are fragmented. Not because the writers wanted to hide information, but because the truth itself is dangerous. The town doesn't simply erase people. It erases certainty. It leaves behind broken memories, incomplete stories, and scattered clues because confusion is part of the process. This is the detail everyone missed. The town never destroys knowledge. It fragments it. One person remembers symbols. Another remembers voices. Someone else remembers dreams. Someone else remembers children. Each survivor carries one piece of the puzzle. No one is allowed to carry all of it. Until now. Because for the first time, several characters are beginning to connect their experiences. Boyd's discoveries. Jade's symbols. Tabitha's visions. Victor's memories. Sarah's voices. None of these storylines exist in isolation anymore. They're starting to overlap. And when separate pieces begin forming one complete picture, the experiment may be reaching its final phase. But here's the most unsettling possibility of all. What if the final phase isn't escaping? What if it's replacing whoever, or whatever, is currently controlling the town? Think about it. If this place has existed for decades, or perhaps much longer, someone had to maintain the cycle. Someone had to preserve the rules. Someone had to keep the machine running. What if that role is never permanent? What if every generation creates the next caretaker? That would explain why the town never truly loses. Even when survivors discover new clues, even when they challenge the rules, the cycle continues. Not because escape is impossible, but because someone always takes the place of the one before. And suddenly, the boy in white becomes even more mysterious. What if he isn't just a guide? What if he was once exactly like Boyd or Jade or Tabitha? A survivor. Someone who completed the town's process long ago. Now he exists between both worlds, not entirely free, but no longer fully trapped. Not trying to rescue anyone, not trying to destroy the town. Simply making sure the cycle continues until the next person is ready. If that's true, then every vision, every symbol, every impossible coincidence has been preparing one person to inherit that role. The real ending of From may not be someone driving out of the town. It may be someone choosing to stay. Not because they lost. Because they've changed so completely that leaving is no longer their purpose. That would be the cruelest twist imaginable. The audience has spent years believing the story is about escape. But what if it has always been about succession? Not a prison. Not a curse. A system that never dies because it keeps creating the person who will protect it next. And if Season 4 is truly building toward that revelation, then every new clue isn't showing us the road home. It's showing us who the next guardian will be. So, the question isn't, who will escape? The real question is, which survivor has already changed so much that they're no longer trying to leave it all? Because if that person already exists, then the town has already won.